Fantasy football, RSVP, go deep, go deep, go deep, go deep. So let's get right to it with the winning championship winning strategy by yours truly, Dean Curry. Let's talk about it. You know, for years in a row, I would win the championship every year. Every year I drove people crazy. I loved it. Unfortunately, though, when you play with the same players every year, they actually get really good also. And it becomes harder and harder and harder to win. And a lot of you have been in leagues for long periods of time. So how do you reinvent yourself when you are playing against players that are your equal, that have caught up to you, and now, you know, a couple of things go wrong, whether it be injury, and you lose a couple of players, you're playing against good players. If they have a healthy team, you're pretty much in the doghouse. How do you overcome that? Okay? How do you make up for, instead of crying and say, oh, there's no such thing as injuries in the National Football League. You either win or you either lose. You either succeed or you fail. Okay? And there's none of this, you know, 2-game playoffs. No, single game playoffs. Okay, you either win or you lose. Okay, it's that simple. And you know, when you're playing against really good players, if you're playing in a 12-person league, which gets even harder. I play in home league and a couple of anonymous leagues that I don't talk about. I like playing with people that I don't know. It adds an element to it. But how do you overcome winning when you're playing against really great players? If you're an NFL player and you're in a league with NFL players, how do you overcome that when the knowledge that you have is so deep and so hands-on? And you know, how do you overcome that if, let's say, you have Aaron Rodgers who goes down the first week, along with Saquon Barkley who goes down the first week. Cooper Kupp was only supposed to be out maybe a week or two, and he's out 4 weeks, and that's how you start the season. That's how I started my season. Okay, and these things, you know, unfortunately happen. You know, Beckham goes down. You know, these kind of things. A lot of these things happen to me. I'm not complaining. Let's talk about how do you overcome that. Okay, now, you know, a lot of people put emphasis on your winning record. I always have the worst record every year. I'm barely able to have a 500 record every year, and there's a reason for that. How do I win championships year in and year out? Not so much the last couple of years. Like I said, I'm playing against better teams, but that's not satisfactory to me. So how do I overcome that? How do you overcome that? Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you win against really good players? How do you overcome injuries? First of all, forget about the regular season. It's not important, okay? Unless you're playing in a league that only takes the top 4 teams. Then you have to get into the playoffs. But again, you shouldn't be going after the best record. You shouldn't be going after, trying to be 12-4 or 13-4 or whatever the case may be. It's not important to finish first. It's important to get into the playoffs. And as long as you can, if you have a 6-team playoff, pretty easy to get in to a 6-team playoff. If you're in a 12-man league, if you're in an 8-man league, 4 to 6 teams make whatever, breakdown that you have. You have leagues. I'm in one league where everyone makes the playoffs, and it starts a little earlier. It's just like crazy because you could come from last and from first, and it causes a whole lot of chaos, which is what I love. But what you should be trying to do each week, first of all, let me give you a bunch of strategies that are winning championship strategies that I'm implementing a lot this year, which I will win the championship this year, hands down. Because the bottom line is what you're trying to do is improve your team each week. Improve your team for the long term. Look at the freaking playoff schedule. Okay, I know people that play fantasy football and they never look at the fantasy football games 15, 16, 17, the playoffs, and they realize that their players are going up against the Niners defense, the Jets defense, or some of the other powerful defenses in the NFL. Okay, and they have 3 straight games and they wonder why their team isn't putting up points. First thing I do before I even draft is I look at the playoff schedule. Okay, and if they have a tough playoff schedule, I kind of go to players that have a good playoff schedule. I never try to have the best record in the league, and I never do have the best record in the league because I never try to do that. All I try to do is improve my team each week. And if you improve your team each week, okay, and you take your weakest link and keep trying to improve your team, the wins and losses take care of itself. You never have to worry about that. Okay, you're trying to put together a team that increases their points and your point total every week. So the wins are just going to come, and you're probably going to have a good enough record, okay, to make the playoffs. Now you're going into the playoffs with the team that you feel is going to be good with a softer playoff schedule, and the team that you feel is going to be good, and you have backups, and you're building your bench. I play a lot of different leagues, and I see people with soft benches, and they're never trying to improve their bench. I always have, like last week, for example, I had bench players putting up 30 points, okay? And, I, again, started season off slow, not worried about it because I'm in a league where most teams make the playoffs. And I'm just improving my team, okay? And my team is getting healthy. And I have bench players that are putting up 28, 30, 35. And eventually, I'm just waiting for those players to marinate, to put up those kind of weeks before I start plugging them in. But I always have the strongest bench. And that comes in really handy come playoff because now you're dealing with matchups. Okay, in the playoffs, you should be thinking matchups. Some players you just plug in no matter what. Some players you plan for matchups. You plan for who they're playing in the playoffs. Second of all, and I get this every year, and I'm about to do it again this year, because I have Achan. You're not going to let go of Achan because Achan is not hurt. Okay, they put him on IR because they're obviously, you got to think intelligently about these things. You got to see. Fantasy football is not about what you see. It's about what you don't see. Okay, it's about what's coming, and there's so many times I pick up players that nobody's picking up on the waiver wire. Nobody was picking up Cedric Wilson. Obviously, I'm putting him on. Cedric Wilson could have played through those. He didn't need to be on the injury report. With a pinky injury, you wrap that up to the index finger, the ring finger. Okay, put a soft cast on it. Thing's not going to move. You can play with that. Put a flak jacket on for your rib injury. You don't need to be on IR till week 6. It's not necessary. But they saw something in Achan and they wanted to create that roster spot. That's why they did it. You have to know what's going on here and be insightful and use your intelligence. Fantasy football is never about emotions. It's about intelligence. It's a chess match. Okay? The person who wins is the person that outthinks the other person. Not out muscles, not gets excited and stuff like that. It's a thinking man's sport. It's a chess game. That's how you have to look at it. When you lose, you got to outsmart it. Okay? So when you see Cedric Wilson go on the injury report, that's because they want to feature Achan. And look how much his stock went up. Now he actually came back into that game after he injured it. So he's not really injured. But hey, you know what? Let's put him on the injury report, create another roster spot, put him on the IR for 4 weeks. Let's showcase Wilson. So this way, when Achan comes back in 4 weeks, we up the stock of Wilson. We can unload Wilson to a team, keep Mostert on short range, trade Wilson. He just put up hundreds and hundreds of yards. They're not going to keep all 3 because they have Ahmed, who's also pretty damn good. Okay, and what they're going to do is they're probably going to trade. They'll probably try to unload Wilson for a lineman or safety or whatever the case may be. Maybe a linebacker. Who knows? Inside, outside, wherever they have a deficit, wherever they get an injury, they're protecting themselves against that. So they're not going to play all 3 running backs. They're not. And you are not going to sit, Achan, and limit his carries, which are about 15 to 16 a game. You're not going to limit that. So when he comes back, he is the most electric running back in the league. I mean, this guy is getting untouched, 70 yards, 80 yards. And, I mean, he put up 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, the guy is doing it every game. And their offense is going to explode and get bigger, bigger, bigger. Achane, trust me, is playing. Mostert is playing because they need him on short yardage. Okay? And they like that thing. So Wilson's going to be the odd man out, but they're going to showcase him, and you play him in fantasy football. You got to see these things before it's happening, because they're going to try to unload him. They're not going to keep all 3. It's not going to happen. Okay? And that's why Achane, if you dropped him, you're a moron. Okay? Because he is not going to come back and showcase 2 or 3. They're going to play the most electric running back in the NFL. Okay? They're going to play when he comes back. And, Wilson's not going to sit. He's going to want to leave. Okay? So you have to see these things before it's happening. I podcasted the other day about Gordon Minshew. Anthony Richardson, again, it's giving you my resume. I've been a post-rehabilitation specialist, licensed massage therapist, licensed by the state of New York. Got past a state test for that. And I've been dealing with injuries and rebuilding shoulders and stuff like that. Anthony Richardson's out for the year. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, he's not going to come back in 4 to 6 weeks. He has a grade 3 sprain. Okay, and when they say recovery process, what they mean is recovery process for a normal person who does not play football for the National Football League, comes back, he's pretty much back to normal with his shoulder, okay, because they're talking from a functional standpoint, right? So when they talk about a functional standpoint, he has the function of a shoulder, okay? He could do this, right? He could do this, he could do this, from an AC sprain in 8 weeks. But we're not talking about doing this or doing this or doing this or doing this, which is what people that have normal jobs do. Oh, I have groceries. Oh, back to normal. I'm functional. When they talk about recovery time, they talk about how long does it take to be functional. AC sprain, that's 8 weeks. Become functional. But now we're talking about being a professional throwing quarterback, where he has to throw this ball really far. That's a 12-week injury, easily. And, I don't think the Colts are a playoff team. So why are they going to bring him back this year? Done. Okay, now why would they say 4 weeks? Because they have tickets to sell, that's why. Okay, and they want you to believe Anthony Richardson coming back. But, so they say 4 weeks, we'll see, and stuff like that. I'm not bringing that quarterback back. I'm bringing him back next year. And Gordon Minshew is going to get on such a roll, okay? And he's going to be, you got to see, I saw it happen, okay, before. The mustache, Gordon Minshew mania. And this guy got swag. And you think these running backs, you got Moss and Taylor, you also got Downs, you got Pierce, you got Pittman. These guys are excellent. I don't know if you watch these guys play. They're excellent route runners. Excellent route runners. And if they look pretty good with Anthony Richardson, who is not a pocket passer, always getting injured, those kind of running quarterbacks, I've been saying it for years, doesn't work. Jalen Hurts is not a running quarterback. They have designed runs for him. That's different than going back to pass and then taking off. Okay? You could prepare for design runs. It's a little different. And let's see if he's doing that year 5, year 6, year 7. Everyone gets away with it the first couple of years, RG3. Okay? But I see something really good, because now you have 2 healthy backs. You have Ogletree, a very good tight end, and they're talking about getting Pitts or Gesicki as a tight end. If that happens, you got to see that it's happening. You got to read the local newspapers. They're talking about picking up a tight end. But Ogletree is an excellent tight end, blocking tight end. They don't really utilize it that much. Had a couple of catches last week. But if you think these guys look pretty good and they're good route runners with Anthony Richardson, wait to see how good these guys are under, the mania of Gordon Minshew mania. You got to see those things coming. This guy is going to, say he's going to put up 30, 35 points, but I'm telling you, that guy's good for 20, 25 a week. And you know what? That's a solid quarterback, okay? That's a solid quarterback, and it's coming, because this team is a little better than people think. Sort of like the Houston Texans. Does anyone realize what CJ Stroud is actually doing? And people are worried he had an off week because he put up a 14. If you drop him, you're crazy. You are absolutely crazy. It has never been done. I remember Peyton Manning his first year, all those picks he threw. Okay, I remember Eli Manning. Okay, all those losses and picks and fumble. I remember every major quarterback coming in their first year, okay, and throwing up major picks. This guy is not throwing a pick. He's throwing for 250, 300 yards a game, okay? People forget last week they're down on CJ Stroud and getting a lot of comments. Did you read the reports before he went up against Atlanta? And they were talking about Atlanta, their defense, being really tough this year on the pass, and this is a tough matchup for him. And you know what? He's still clutch. He's not just making throws. He's making clutch throws. He actually came back and won that game, left a little too much time on the clock. You learn about game management, as you go, and you don't give them a chance. They came down, kicked the field goal. Okay, but Atlanta's really tough to beat in Atlanta. I don't think Ritter's actually lost the game there. You know what I'm saying? You got to pay attention to these things. But C.J. Stroud is doing things that hasn't been done. And guess what grows each week that he does it? What grows is his confidence. And it's going to be exponential. He's got some really talented, receivers in there. They have a good running game. And there's something happening with the Houston Texans. Okay? There's something happening with, in these. So what I'm saying is championship football is not about what you see, it's what you don't see. You want more quarterbacks? Okay. What team has a really good defense that's actually not playing really good defense? They're good defense on paper, but they're playing lousy defense. Washington Commanders. Which team has really good running backs that could both pass, could both receive, and run the ball? Washington Commanders. Which team has probably the best trio of receivers in the game? Samuel, McLaurin, Dotson. This is one talented team. Oh, and they also got a guy named Logan Thomas who put up 9 of 12 catches for 100 and something yards and super talented, tight end. A team that is not playing well, a team that's playing horribly, and a quarterback that just put up almost 30 points, with the team not playing well, not getting their opportunities. Let me tell you, sometimes it takes teams a while for their defense to come together. I don't know if you remember the year before, the Commanders weren't too good either in the beginning of the season, but the second half, they sort of start to figure it out. These are the things you have to see, And they had some tough matchups along the way, These are the things that you have to see. You have to see what is going on here. Does Kyler Murray come back? If he doesn't come back, what's going on with Dobbs? This guy's starting to really come around. This team, this Arizona team is in every game. Something's happening here. You have to kind of see these things before they happen. But you have Sam Howell. This guy seems so calm and relaxed, and he's a distributor. Late round pick. But he gets the ball out and gets to people. That offensive line is going to start blocking a little better. They're going to start really coming together. Their defense, this is one of the best teams on paper, that's actually not playing well. I talk about a coaching change. I think that's a mistake. But they have a very complex, very complex system that they ran in Kansas City with their offensive coordinators being applied there now as the offensive coordinator. And that thing takes a while. It's sort of like the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of people down on Dak Prescott. You don't have to worry about Dak Prescott. You don't have to worry about the Cowboys offense. They're playing horribly right now. But they fully implemented McCarthy's full West Coast offense just this year. Those kind of things take a long time. Let me teach you about the West Coast offense. It's very instinctual. It's instinctual and leaves room for improvisation. And that is not only improvisation from the quarterback position, it's improvisation from the wide receiver position, tight end position, where they have the liberty to see something and dialect. They're pressing. on this thing in front of me, I could fade out or I could fade across. I have that option in the West Coast offense. Okay, I could, set it up for a down and in. They're loading the box against me. They're pressing, they're playing back on me. I could kind of curl in, and fade out, based on what I'm seeing. And there's an unspoken communication, which Aaron Rodgers loves. Okay, if you see this position and this is coming in, you fade away from this position, you go here. Okay, you come there and you're getting pressed over here. Okay, you side step and you fade out long, and there's a communication between the quarterback, and that's going to take a while in Dallas. You don't have to worry about Dak Prescott. That's a quarterback. He's going to figure it out. They have great receivers. Okay, they have a good running game. They have a good defense. That team is going to figure out. The team you see now at the Cowboys is not going to be the team you see at the end of the year. If you have their players, CeeDee Lamb or whatever, their numbers are going to climb. So again, what you see, I'm talking a lot about this, what you see, it's not what you see each week, but what you don't see. Okay, I'll give you one more. Okay, Baker Mayfield is playing really well. Their running game's starting to come along a little bit. They have great receivers. He's looking more and more confident every day. They are leading the division. They are playing teams tough. They're starting, I'm reading reports, read the local newspapers, a lot of reports. Baker Mayfield is for real. His teammates are saying he's a real dude. He's a real guy. He's starting to get a little swag to him. He's starting to air that ball out. That is a position, if he's available on your team, pick him up, put him on your team. Because that's what becomes confident. When you become a playoff team, when you become a winning team, okay, you start to compound. It's exponential. It's exponential. You start to see things happening. I think Baker Mayfield could easily be a quarterback putting up 23, 25 points every week. And that's a solid guy to put in late in the year. Okay? So this is kind of what you see. Remember, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. You have to forecast things happening before you happen, and then you get a steal. So I'm Dean Curry, Fantasy Football, RSVP. So have yourself a wonderful day.